Did President Trump just abandon the Iranian people? The US was ready to strike Iran, then suddenly stood down. President Trump says execution stopped, but leaked footage and the Islamic regime say otherwise. So what is really going on? We're uncovering it all, only on JNS, only on the Quad. Welcome back, everybody, to the Quad, and here in our JNS Jerusalem studios with my wonderful co-hosts, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist, Shoshana Keats-Jaskell, founder of Chokhmat Nashim, elevating Orthodox women's voices, and Bellamy Bellucci, activist, dancer, artist, and much more. Welcome, everyone. What is happening right now? We were all ready. We're here in Jerusalem. We're all getting ready. My husband bought all the water. We fixed our shelter.
And
we bought the whiskey. And we were hunkering down. And I want to say a few things. First of all, I want to say this. The Israeli people last week were ready to take the hit so that the Iranian people could be free. I want people to understand this. We were ready to take the sacrifice for that to happen because we knew that if the US would have attacked Iran, then Israel was going to get attacked. And most people here were okay with it for the sake of a free Iran. And just as it's coming to a crescendo, Wednesday night, Thursday, rainy, windy, we're waiting in our homes and nothing happens. So the question that we want to unpack is, what happened? Why did nothing happen? Is this on purpose? Is this a ruse? Is this waiting for reinforcements from around the world? Was Israel not prepared? And we have some people who had some opinions about that, like Steve Witkoff. Watch this.
President Trump warned the Iranians, and at his direction, we communicated with the Iranians yesterday. And one of the things we were concerned about were the killings that were rumored to be on the way. Hangings, mass hangings, and that's been shut down. Well, I hope there's a diplomatic resolution. I really do. There are four issues: nuclear enrichment, missiles. They have to cut back on their inventory. The actual material that they have, which is roughly 2,000 kilograms, which is enriched anywhere between 3.67% and 60%, and the proxies, of course. I think if they want to come back to the League of Nations, if we can solve those four problems diplomatically, then that would be a great resolution. And I think the alternative is a bad one.
Sorry, I'm very confused. So the only problem with the regime is their essence, their evil, the way they've mistreated and killed their own people, the fact that they're exporting terrorism. If we solve those four problems, then we have a way to deal with Iran. Emily, I'm holding you back here. Emily.
No, I first and foremost, the thing that stands out to me most is the fact that he named four major problems, and they are problems with the Islamic Republic, but he did this within 24, 48 hours of at least now 16,000 Iranians being massacred in the streets. Are the people, the citizens of this country, not a factor in any way whatsoever in this equation? I mean, the inhumanity to sit on a stage and say something like that. Oh, if this regime, which is completely illegitimate, wants to come back to the League of Nations, then we can make that happen. Why? Why on earth would you make that happen? Why would you support the Islamic Republic, which is an illegitimate government, being recognized and accepted and tolerated in the League of Nations? The whole problem is that the League of Nations accepted the Islamic Republic in 1979.
And
you should be expelling ambassadors. You should be revoking recognition. You should be implementing sanctions. And yes, you should be carrying out strikes because the Iranian people are begging in the streets for military intervention. So Steve Witkoff, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be negotiating, and taking IRGC's word that executions have stopped is complete bull.
And also,
Well said, you were holding me back.
yeah,
Sorry.
but what's curious is that this was said after Khamenei said this.
ما رئیس جمهور آمریکا رو مجرم می‌دانیم، هم به خاطر تلفات، هم به خاطر خسارات، هم به خاطر تهمتی که به ملت ایران زد.
Heil Hitler.
Pretty much. Oh, they're the ladies.
Who did to England? They added England. Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Goes out.
Yeah, we would feel left out.
ما بنا نداریم کشور رو به طرف جنگ ببریم، اما مجرمان داخلی رو همراه نمی‌کنیم.
رئیس جمهور آمریکا ترامپ توییت زده بود و تشکر کرده بود که برخورد نشده با 800 نفر از کسایی که توی این اغتشاشات بودن.
خب ترامپ همیشه حرف مفت و بی جهت خیلی میزنه، غلط هم میکنه. ما برخوردمون برخورد قاطع، بازدارنده و سریع هست و الان تعداد زیادی از پرونده هامون منتهی به صدور کیفرخواست شده، به دادگاه ارسال شده.
So, did he not see this? Shoshana, what the Iranian leadership now is doing is taunting Trump. Like, I wouldn't taunt Trump because Trump does what he says and he says what he means.
I hope they do taunt him, and I hope he does say what he, gets pissed and does what he's supposed to do, because I do agree. I think the Iranian people are waiting for Trump to come through. I know Trump doesn't want to be Obama. He doesn't want to be that guy who says, if you gas your people, I'm going to come in. That's my red line, and then does nothing. I know Trump doesn't want to do that. So what he's waiting for, I hope, like I always hope, that there's information we don't have that they have that's going to make whatever strikes do come far more effective and decisive, right? Like, we don't want what happened the last time, which is 12 days of war, and then in the end of the day, they're still in power. We need them gone. And these people otherwise will have sacrificed their lives. Men, women, children in the streets would have sacrificed their lives for nothing.
It's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. It's like saying, oh, let's ask Hitler to shut down Auschwitz, but he can stay in power.
Yeah.
That's how absurd.
I agree. That's what it sounded like.
This whole thing is. But the question is, was it a little, message from somebody to say, oh, they've stopped the executions? Or do you think there was something deeper going on? Or maybe even, Israel, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. If they attack, it's Israel's fault. If they don't attack, we were the ones who stopped them. Do you think that we weren't ready, perhaps, and we needed a bit more time?
I genuinely think that the Israeli people have been prepared, and they're the ones that are standing with the Iranian people saying, you know what, we'll take the brunt of this. We were waiting. We know that we're going to be attacked.
Yeah.
So at some point, I definitely understand and agree with what you're saying when it comes to Trump. Okay. I always imagine him as a kid in a sandbox. And at some point, you're going to keep poking the bear, and that little kid is going to stand up and beat the living crap out of you. And then you're going to go and cry and say, but this happened to your parents. And when your parents say something, you're going to lie about it. So back to exactly who these people are. They're liars.
Yep.
So what if they say, oh, the executions of stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, how nice for you. Like, in terms of diplomacy, that you can then go, well, in terms of diplomacy, if we really want to do this in terms of leadership, but shut up. Do what you need to do. This is still the Middle East at the end of the day. And ultimately, they're looking to the West. They're crying out to the West because they actually know the Western powers that are there. Israel can't be the one that's attacking. We're the ones that will be attacked. We're the ones that will carry the brunt of it because that's a message that's going to America. But at the same time, get on with it.
We were the ones who've done the heavy lifting here in terms of destroying their mid-management, let's put it that way, or all of their scientists, a lot of the IRGC in the 12-day war in July. We've really set the scene for this, but we can't be the ones who take this all on our own because we need that American firepower. But I actually do believe that they were going to attack that night. I know that because my kids are in the army. Things were shut down. There was no communication for 24 hours. They really thought that night, the way the country behaved is that we thought we were going to be in the middle of this, and then it didn't happen. So I don't know, because you can never tell with Trump. We also kind of misguided the situation before the 12-day war, if you remember. Do you remember Bibi was going to marry his son, and it looked like there was a little public spat between Bibi and Trump, and then the whole thing was a ruse. So you never know. These are very clever, strategic people there. But it just seems to me that in the face of the documented evidence, they've got Starlink. It is very weak. It is very bad. Whoever can does it. And then you see the atrocities going on, like what we see here. The body bags on the street, the people being shot in hospitals, the young people that you see with blood, dead, with their eyes open, lying on the street. How much more? 20,000 people is estimated it could be. I mean, we have no idea. It could be more. 20,000 people. 2 years of war that we had here against Hamas. And even according to Hamas numbers, and we all know they're lying bastards, 70,000 dead. We know it was 1.1 in terms of the ratio, 1.15, 1.12. We know that we're talking about potentially 35,000 innocent people that died as a result of a war that we didn't start. And yet, in 4 days, there's 20,000 people. And the world is still thinking about this.
It's even more appalling when you think about the fact that, like, when it comes to Israel or Gaza, this is a legally justified and legally declared war in response to it's a defensive war in response to an attack on October 7th. It shouldn't even be compared in this, civilian casualties, which of course are tragic, but that's what happens in war. I mean, that's why we didn't start a war. This is a completely different scenario. I mean, these are crimes against humanity being committed by a government that's supposed to represent the people that they're executing and butchering on the street. Exactly. And I do think in regards to the attack, I understand the strategic diversion, perhaps. It is possible. It remains to be seen what happens if Trump will still attack. My biggest problem with this is that at the same time when we saw the worst nights of this massacre, when we saw well over, at least from what we know now, well over 10,000 people were killed on those 2 nights, when the first few nights that the internet was cut off in Iran, was the same time that President Trump said, continue protesting, take over institutions, go into the streets, help is on its way. Help is on its way? Yeah. It's been almost a week. Iranians still have no internet. Like, you can't, when you're the president, you can't say those things. You can't just talk and not understand that there are consequences. And there's a protester that I actually posted about whose last words to his family were, President Trump is with us, I'm going to the streets to protest. And he died. And it's very, very upsetting. We know revolutions, it's going to be paid in blood. We know that. We knew that before. It's going to be really difficult. But it can be less difficult if President Trump does what he needs to do.
That's why I actually do think he's going to do. I mean, I hope. I'm praying. Shoshana.
I think what people don't realize, and I don't know what the average human being on planet Earth sees and listens to. I know that we are obviously consuming all the time content from Iran, even though the internet is shut down. And even, I find myself just looking at the screen and crying at people having to open hundreds of body bags to find their loved one, or to have to pay thousands of dollars in bribes to have the body released and to sign confessions and to record apologies. And it's so much work. Sounds crazy to say this. It's so much worse than just having your family members killed. Yes. You are also being forced to pretend that they were traitors and dissidents and that they've done things wrong. Or the story of the father who went to the pharmacy to get medicine for his 3-year-old and she's shot in his arms. This is so much worse than I think what people even understand. Yeah. And watching that man, the supreme leader, talk, it's almost like it's very hard to digest that people are really like this and that there's anyone in the world that defends them.
Because I think that we've been brought up in a society where we don't actually know how to recognize real evil. And everything is moral relativism. Oh, but the imperialist West caused the situation. Yeah. And people have lost the sense of good and bad. Yeah. And I don't think we have, because we've seen evil. We've seen evil in the face. Hamas is evil. What it does to their own kids and what they did to our kids, okay? We know evil. But the world has, I mean, you hear these morons defending the Roger Waters, that idiot, and the Corbyns. Nobody's saying anything whilst people are being murdered. It just shows that people, to me, this is very clear how the Holocaust happened. I can see it in front of us. When people think of the Holocaust, they think it's like another another like, I don't know, another universe. But no,
Like,
this is
you never
human
have here.
nature.
Exactly.
Brainwash, indoctrination, not being able to see evil when it's looking you in the face.
And then to say to somebody, like to people, especially in the U.S., when they say, "Oh no, but the killings stopped because President Trump said it did," you don't actually understand what that even means. So besides the fact that there's no internet, yes, we are able to see videos that are coming out of there. We're able to see pictures. We're able to hear people's, testimonies and pleading for this. That doesn't mean that they didn't go ahead while the lights are out and we're not doing it in public. We're just going to go into hospitals and start going bullet in the head, just like that. And then you have people like that are like praising the supreme leader. And at the same time, that is such a deep level of brainwashing that happens at such a young age. So when we try to explain to other people that this is also the way that Hamas, pulls children in. This is how martyrs are raised. They don't understand it and they choose not to see it. When you try to tell them in a place like these are Iranians. Take Israel out of the equation. Take Hamas out of the Look at Iranians that are actually begging for this. People have had to flee, that left and started from nothing in America, raising their children. People have lost their parents, saying, one day I wish that I could take my family back home to what used to be the Paris of the Middle East. It is disgusting that all that you can see and hear from people right now, young or old, are going, no, but it's Israel's fault. And at some point, whatever is going on the ground is because the U.S. interfered, the U.S. created it, and Israel was a part of it. It's not a Mossad operation.
Yes, the whole thing is it's patronizing, it's cruelty. They've also been brainwashed. The woke, West has been brainwashed against Jews, against Western values that are good values compared to this. They have been brainwashed themselves. We're dealing with a world which is completely brainwashed, and they can't even see evil when it's right in front of them. Okay, but let's move on from one evil to another evil. Hamas, the one that is right on our border.
Really, they're the same.
Yes, they're the same. And let's just remind everybody that the Islamic Republic of Iran have been funding Hamas. They were the sponsors of October 7th, amongst other people like Qatar. And they are the biggest sponsors of Hezbollah. And when their people were starving and didn't have water in the taps, they still managed to send $1 billion to Hezbollah since Nasrallah, may he rot in hell, was assassinated by us. So that's just reminding everybody that the Iranian Islamic regime sacrifices its own people to ensure that they export enough terrorism to cause a lot of chaos and kill as many Jews and Americans as possible. Okay, Board of Peace. Board of Peace. We don't even know whether this is the right name for it. If peace
Clearly
is
not.
something you couldn't even talk
clearly
about. But the Board of Peace was announced this week, and I'm a bit confused because there's a few boards of peace. There's the executive one, there's the ceremonial one, there's the advisory one. There's about 2 or 3 of them, no women anywhere. Oh, surprise, surprise. But there's been quite a lot of controversy because Turkey and Qatar have been nominated to be part of this Board of Peace. In other words, they've put the foxes in charge of the chickens, or they've really put the people who are funding Hamas in charge of dealing with Hamas. So what do we think about that? And is this going to be a real problem between Israel and U.S. relations?
Wait, you're saying that having Qatar and Turkey share a border with us might be a problem? I don't understand. What can go wrong? What do you mean? Of course it's ridiculous. All they're going to do is do nicer tunnels. They're just going to be more
Air-conditioned.
more
They'll be like
nicer tunnels.
luxury with Wi-Fi,
Luxury tunnels,
like
that's the word I'm
fancy
looking for.
lounge, shisha.
Jacuzzi.
Yeah.
Welcome to the harem.
Oh my God. Yes.
It's so scary to think about how on such a global stage, when things should be changing, moving forward, there should be a different direction in which the Middle East is taking. As long as there's money on the table, you can go in either way and say, for diplomatic reasons, this is much better. I can accept a plane for so-and-so money because it's for diplomatic reason. I can get in bed with the enemy because it's for diplomatic purposes.
Yeah.
At some point, where do we draw the line and say no? And if it's going to be somebody that you know, you're going to bring the evil in, invite it into your home, break bread with it at your table, please pull the trigger at some point or don't invite it in.
They brought in Qatar and Turkey, the two Muslim Brotherhood strongholds in the world now, to disarm.
Who, by the way, the U.S. administration did ban the Muslim Brotherhood, but only certain chapters. And the chapters they conveniently did not name were Turkey and Qatar. Funny how that works. Let's not forget that the Turkish foreign minister himself is someone who publicly eulogized and praised Ismail Haniyeh after we assassinated him. So the person who praised Ismail Haniyeh is also the person who is at least in part responsible for disarming Hamas in Gaza.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And going back to your point, Bellamy, about money and connecting this to Iran, you know, the most disturbing report or opinion is that Saudi and the UAE stopped America from attacking for oil reasons, because the last thing they want is a free Iran with trade ties. They are so rich in crude oil, and that will mean that the price of oil goes down, and that would affect these countries. I almost can't believe that 90 million people are being held hostage for the sake of the price of oil. Could it be true? Have we lost it?
For sure it's true. And the irony is, the Jews are the ones with the money who control the banks.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, we're like small potatoes.
I mean,
Just so small potatoes.
have you seen a map?
Another thing that I remember hearing from Venezuelans when what happened with Maduro was when Americans said, it's for oil, it's for oil, they said, we don't care.
Yeah.
Just get them in, take the oil.
What do we care what they're...
Iranians are saying the same thing, like, take the oil.
Yeah, let me-
Just deal with this, like, deal with the evil that's literally been massacring us this whole time. If that's what it takes, take it. Take it.
Honestly, I feel like we're living in bizarro world, in like an upside down world where right is wrong and wrong is right, and people are blind and they can't see what's right in front of them. And I will reiterate this to the people of Iran who are listening, if you can listen, and certainly the Iranian diaspora, that Israel is with you and we are ready to face the consequences of liberating you, because the consequences will be felt here. And I think that there's not one Israeli who's not ready for this.
I think that the U.S. response, also with the Gaza border peace and also with Iran, there's a fight internally going on. Even within the administration, you can see it. And of course, that's to be expected, because the Islamic Republic alone, not even getting into Qatar, but the Islamic Republic alone has spent billions on lobbying, soft lobbying also in Washington. They're pushing out for certain things. They're trying to spread a lot of, one of their primary claims right now is that there is no opposition leader, which is of course false. We see people across 31 provinces, all provinces of Iran, chanting for Reza Pahlavi. Does everyone love him? No. Is he the most popular, most known, most respected opposition leader? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only that, he's pro-Western and pro-democracy.
Yeah.
I don't know why the West is hesitating, other than the fact that you have such a disinformation campaign lobbying against it. And we see the same thing with Qatar. That is why, at least part of the reason why they lobbied against a strike on the United States. And it's this misguided ideology that we saw from Steve Witkoff, that you can negotiate or somehow compromise with people who have this Islamist ideology, and you can't.
With the devil.
Can't change them.
With the devil.
You
can negotiate with the devil. That's basically what Witkoff wants everybody.
We went from going, you can't negotiate with terrorists, to saying, no, well, if they do this, you know, we'll just get their cousin and a brother to kind of deal with them while we look over
that
here.
they care. Even Witkoff, he assumes that the leadership cares about what's best for their country.
Exactly.
And they don't. Hamas doesn't, Hezbollah doesn't, the Houthis don't, and certainly the Islamic Republic of Iran doesn't. So any negotiation that starts from there is going to be wrong.
Exactly, because what they don't understand, because they can't see things through the lens of the Islamist, jihadi, extremist, is that their ideology comes before people and comes before lives. It's the opposite of us. We put lives first, and they put lives last, because their ideology, their very toxic ideology, they live for death. It's a death cult. And somebody like Witkoff can't understand that.
Yep.
He can't understand it, and therefore he shouldn't be making these decisions.
But another red light, which I think didn't get enough of an echo of a voice, is why is Iran having military drills in South Africa? Just off the coast.
You always bring us the South African angle.
Because they're Baptist in the Islamic Republic.
I'm looking. I'm like, why is nobody talking? As though it's just normal.
Yeah.
As though it's just normal. It's like, okay, You're where we keep, it's like a storage unit. Nobody knows the address, nobody knows what's going on, but boom, all of a sudden your whole house will be furnished. From where?
This is like the rehearsal.
The rehearsal.
The
It's
rehearsal place. Anyway, we pray, as we always do, that things get better. And look, you never know. By the time next week comes along, we could be looking at a free Iran, and we could all be doing the quad in Tehran. Bezrat Hashem, inshallah, please God. Okay, moving on, because there's so many scumbags to deal with, as in every week. And I know that it's a very favorite part of the show for many of you. Scumbag of the week. Bellamy, let's start with you. Who's your scumbag this week?
Cenk Uygur, or whatever your name is, Cenk. I'm so sick of this man to a point where I don't understand how he's always foaming at the mouth. But for once, he didn't really do so much. But what he had to say was more disgusting than anything else. Take a look.
It's obviously on behalf of Israel. Who are we kidding? Look at the Israelis frothing at the mouth. We've seen them for 20 years go, you have to invade Iran on our behalf. You have to invade Iran on our behalf. Okay, well, why doesn't Israel do it? And by the way, look at all this bullshit about how, the Iranians are, the regime is bad guys. Of course they are, but so was Saddam. That didn't mean we should go into Iraq. So Kim Jong-un's a terrible leader, abuses his people so badly in North Korea. How come there's no propaganda against him? Because Israel, it doesn't have North Korea within Greater Israel. So since it's not related to Israel, there's no talk of the terrible leader of North Korea. How about you guys are worried about state-sponsored terrorism? Israel is a terrorist state. So they killed 2,000 in Iran, these protesters, and I hate that the regime did that. Israel killed 70,000 Palestinians. They occupy 5.5 million of them, and they say they're never going to free them. So why are we helping a terrorist state start another disastrous war in Iraq that we're going to have, in Iran in this case, that we're going to have to pay for?
Okay.
And if people don't know this, Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. They're walking you into another disaster, and I guarantee it, and it'll be for Israel again, and then they'll pretend that it wasn't, and they'll call everyone an anti-Semite.
I just feel that one day this guy's going to have a heart attack. On screen. He's going to explode. He sweats profusely. And one day he's going to go...
But what really bugged me, there was one question. She handled herself so well. What bugged me was when he said, who elected you to speak on behalf of the Iranian people? Who elected you to speak on behalf of Palestinians?
Exactly.
Who are you?
Oh,
This man has been, and it gets worse and worse and worse as time goes by, between him and Anna just having a little circle jerk all the time about how much they hate Israel. They will never actually come from a place speaking for people on the ground, people that are actually struggling. It always has to be led right back to Israel, right back to Palestine, right back to Gaza. Can't you just for 2 seconds speak on the matter on the table? I know that, you know, that's your paycheck from Iran and Qatar is kind of going to go a little bit down. It might dip, but trust me, nothing's going to happen to you, buddy.
No. You know, that's the thing about anti-Semitism, that it's anti-Semites, they're all consumed by Jewish hatred.
That's the lens. They see everything, the whole
They
world.
see, it really is like Charlie Kirk used to say, a brain rot. Everything they see through that lens, so much so that Anna Kasparian is like fighting over the numbers. No, it's 500 people killed, not 2,000 people. Oh, she didn't really care about the Gaza numbers. She would just spout 500,000, 300,000, it doesn't matter. It really is the brain rot that is anti-Semitism. And in the end, it will destroy them because we've seen it again and again. Wonderful, wonderful. They've been scumbags many times before, of course.
Yes.
But it's a particularly honorable mention this week. Thank you very much. Emily, who's your scumbag?
So my scumbag was also someone that was on Piers Morgan this past week. Also on Amanpour, of course. Because who would Christiane Amanpour be if she wasn't highlighting and giving a platform to terrorists?
Yes.
But Mohammed Mirandi, who is an unofficial spokesman of the Islamic Republic, he's a professor at the University of Tehran, and he's a known propagandist who's often parroted around in Western media, shilling for the Islamic Republic, spreading absolute lies, just flat out lies, which we saw this week again on Piers Morgan. The same line of criticism that, you know, oh, it's actually Israel behind it, and oh, there's not that many casualties, and if there are, then it's actually not us, it's actually Israel, on and on and on. But The reason in particular that he's my scumbag this week is because this is happening, all these interviews have been happening at a time when the internet and phone connectivity has been completely 100% cut off for the people of Iran. So you tell me, audience, how is Marandi doing interviews via Zoom or whatever platform they're using on the internet when the internet is completely shut off? While also claiming, by the way, that he doesn't actually work for the regime and he's not a part of it, and on and on and on. So there's a thing in Iran called the white SIM cards, and the white SIM cards refer to people who are affiliated with or are the Islamic Republic. They are the only ones who have certain access to internet. It's actually what they're talking about promoting in the future. They've said that they're going to keep the internet off until at least March. Hopefully that changes and Elon Musk can do something about the situation with Starlink. But this is one of the ways that they control the narrative in the West. And Marandi is one of the chief propagandists of this method, of this tactic that the Islamic Republic uses. So he's my scumbag this week and many other weeks as well, but in particular, an absolute scumbag this week for defending the Islamic regime while the people are being murdered in the streets with no access to internet, simply so that he could parrot this disgusting, perverse narrative that's blaming the victims, the hostages, the 90 million hostages, the people of Iran under the Islamic Republic.
Amen. He is really disgusting, and I mean, and his little smirk always. Like people are dying and he's smiling. And what I love about his appearance on Piers is that they brought in Goldie to debate him. This is a new thing for Piers Morgan. They don't tell people that they're going to bring somebody else on. You think you're doing a one-on-one, and they bring somebody else. So they brought her, and he was like, I never agreed to debate. And of course, he has not a leg to stand on. He is really a piece of work. So yeah, a very, very good comeback. And I mean, you talk about internet. The Khamenei is still tweeting, and so are all his cronies. So there you go. Only certain people get internet. Shoshana, who's your scumbag? Or should I say scumbags this week?
I have a car full of scumbags.
A bus full. A bus full, a limo full of scumbags.
I don't even know most of these guys. Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, Sneeko, Tristan Tate, Clavicular, and Amrao Fudel, who is also apparently Myron Days, who are all in the car. You'll see it in a minute, but they're all in a car, Heil Hitlering to Yee's song. But the best thing for me is that Yee's chorus, it's N-word, Heil Hitler. N-word, Heil Hitler. But the white boys in the car are afraid to say the N-word because of the black guys in the car, so they can't even be full scumbags because they're scared. And I'm like, could you have, like, it was a Saturday Night Live skit. It couldn't be better. Yeah. The white guy would be like, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, because they were afraid. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Stand by your convictions. Let's see what goes on in that car afterwards. And then at the party, oh my God, Bellamy, I have to thank you for this because I saw it this morning after I chose my car of scumbags. They're at a party and these women, guys, girls, why are you there? Unless they're paying you a ton of money and you use that to like support, I don't even know what women know. Like, do not be in your disguise. And these guys are sitting there like, say you hate women, say you hate women. Say you hate women.
Aren't half of them
gay? The women, oh, they're for sure gay. Of course they're gay. I mean, gays are great, but guys who are gay but don't admit to being gay, they're not so great. Anyway, you have to watch these clips. You guys have to watch these clips. Start with the car.
Yeah, bitch, I'm the villain.
Juice man! Juice man!
They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Nigga, how Hitler? They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, how Hitler? She wanna fuck with the pen. I put the crumb on the bench.
Hey!
Nigga, how Hitler? She reaching down on her pants. She got the rope in her hands.
Do you think that this is where the MAGA movement will now self-correct? Like, how can anybody stand with this? Oh, is Megyn Kelly going to say, oh, hang on, Clavicular's a young father?
No. Probably her next guest.
But maybe it's Israel.
The strangest thing was that the same guy that's in the pink suit right there is Tristan. That is Tristan Tate.
Oh, the
and
brother.
Tristan Tate, before that at the pre-party, holding a lovely white claw, because that's what real men do, goes ahead and says to Nick Fuentes, this is the real N-word with a hard R. This is the real nigger. And he goes, and you can hear in the background Andrew Tate saying, this is the last real nigger that's left. Sits down and then apologizes to Nick Fuentes for how he saw him. And then later on in the stream, when they've come back from the club, because now, Nick Fuentes has said no to dating any woman or to taking any woman's number who's, barely covered at any point, because we know why they're there. You're not really going to be beating these trafficking rumors, brothers. Goes ahead and says, one of the guys, Speed or whatever, somebody says, assalamu alaikum, whatever, and then he goes off and responds to it. And then you see Fuentes in the back going like this, I don't even understand what you were saying, bro. And then later on says, do you believe that the leader do you think that Christianity was started by a Jew, or do you believe that the leader of the Christians is a Jew? And Fuentes looks up and says, yes, Jesus Christ. And there's so many clips that you said.
Are you saying that these people made Nick Fuentes look moderate?
Yes, yes. I'm not kidding you. They actually think, I watched so many things. It was a scene.
Even Nick Fuentes is going, it's a bit too much for you. Oh my God. Oh, how ridiculous can it get?
The best part also is if you look at Bellaby's clips on her Instagram, there's this guy's like bragging about how he will never I won't take a woman out to dinner. I won't sit across from her for 3 hours. 3 hours? Like, because you're a monkey. What are you going to say to a woman for 3 hours?
With a cigar.
You have no conversations tonight.
People can't get laid anyway. I have women.
That's the problem. They're all a bunch of losers living on their mother's
That was very
They're all living in their mother's basements and are losers, and they got a little bit of fame right now. But I'm hoping that this type of thing actually makes the MAGA movement wake up and go, Ben Shapiro was right. Ben Shapiro had a point. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that was
bus full of scumbags. All right, so my scumbag of the week, I'm taking a real turn here. And compared to these people, maybe he's less of a scumbag, but really, he's a pretty bad scumbag. He is the chief constable of the West Midland Police in the UK, called Craig Guildford. Now, I want to take you back a few months when the West Midland Police, which is the area of the UK where Aston Villa, Birmingham is, and the city was holding a football match, soccer for the Americans, between Aston Villa, which is a very popular football team, and Maccabi Tel Aviv. And the allegations now that have been proven correct is that Birmingham is a very, very Islamist town. They've got MPs, members of parliament, that basically represent Gaza rather than the Brummies, the Birmingham people. And essentially what the West Midland Police did is they invented a whole excuse that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were violent, were dangerous, and it was a danger to public order. And that's why they ban all Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to the game, which is almost unprecedented. It's happened a few times before with other teams, but we're talking about particularly violent teams. That's not what Maccabi Tel Aviv is. Maccabi Tel Aviv, yes, is raucous fans, but they certainly don't have a violence problem beyond the regular football fan. And now it has been, and at the time they came out on TV and I said from the beginning, this is BS. This is BS. And guess what? It was BS, because it was uncovered recently that essentially what happened was that the Islamists in Birmingham were threatening violence, and the police, as weak, feckless police that they are, instead of dealing with the Islamists, they decided to blame the Jews and ban the Jews because they didn't want to deal with the Islamists because they're scared of them. But why is this guy, Craig Guildford, my scumbag this week? Because he was actually in a committee, in a public inquiry, and he said something which are so ridiculous. They asked him, why didn't you reveal that it was the Islamists that were threatening violence? He said, well, nobody ever asked me. So basically, he tells half a story. He blames the Israeli fans, and he doesn't uncover that it was actually because they were scared of the Islamist violence. And then he has the gall, the chutzpah, to say in a public inquiry, well, you never asked that particular question, so I never gave you the full information. doctored files about Maccabi Tel Aviv fans that even the Dutch police said, no, this was not us. And you've completely fabricated evidence about the violence when there was, in fact, a pogrom in Holland against those same fans. But what I'm really upset about is that this week he retired. He retired with a full pension. He retired with everything that a regular chief of police retires. He did not face the consequences for lying under oath, for doctoring up charges against a foreign football team, and for blaming the Jews for what in fact was Islamist violence. And so, Craig Guilford, you are a coward. You basically didn't do the first thing you have to do as the chief of police, and that is protect the people in your town and protect the people visiting your town. And instead you just bend over to be completely taken over, run over, and manipulated by the Islamists in your town that you were too much of a coward to deal with. And so I'm glad you're gone, but you should have gone in disgrace, facing the consequences of your lies, your dishonesty, and basically of being the weak leader that you were. So good riddance to you, Craig Guilford. And that is my scumbag of the week. All right. We need some heroes. Really, and when you see his face, you saw the inquiry?
I saw.
I mean, you were there at the football match.
Yeah.
You were pulled aside, weren't you?
Yeah.
Because you're known, Emily.
Because I had a shirt that said Zionist.
Yes, and you're known to be a violent football fan, aren't you?
That's me. A violent football fan.
This is what they're worried about. Okay, now, let's cleanse our souls with some heroes. Bellamy.
Mine is Meraj Tehrani, who is a singer, and he had just basically come back, and I think he was on his way to Turkey, and he had just landed, and you can hear in his voice, it's just so disheartening. Please take a look.
آقا من الان رسیدم ترکیه. همه رو دارم میکشن. همه رو دارم میکشن. بچه‌ها رو همه رو دارم میکشن. فقط کمک خارجی. فقط کمک خارجی احتیاج داریم. میشه ما کمک بگیریم. نمیدونم چطوری میتونیم وقتی کمک بگیریم. خود دارن غرقم میکنن تو سر سینه. شلیک مستقیم بی‌رحمانه دارن میکشن همه رو.
I think it's so important to have, even for me, like to call him a hero, as emotional as that is, because it brought so much light to what's going on. And it was very quick that video was literally went viral.
He left.
Yes, he had just fled.
Fled Iran, like now.
Yeah, he had just fled, and it brought so much attention, I think, in such a short space of time. I was watching the video and I couldn't stop watching it over and over again because I thought, this is what the world needs to see. This is what the world needs to hear.
Yeah.
So he didn't say, oh, there are a few. He said they're murdering everyone.
Yeah.
There's no understanding of what the Iranian people are going to. The fact that you
Except us.
Yeah, except us.
The footage that I've received is honestly indistinguishable from October 7th.
Yep.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And the people that I've spoken to, like people I personally have spoken to, have witnessed 100, 200 people shot right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's the level of barbarity and cruelty is only matched by what we saw on October 7th.
This is 7th century barbarism.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
And my hat goes off to him, not just for bringing attention, but he put his life on the line.
Yep.
He really did put his life, his family's life, he put it on the line in a moment to say, I need to bring attention. I need to call attention with the utmost urgency right now because the world needs to know what's happening. The clock is ticking.
Yeah. Well, thank God that we have heroes like that, and thank you for bringing him to us, Bellamy. It's heartbreaking, but we need more of them, so that people wake up, or if the zombies are going to wake up, I don't know. Emily.
So my hero this week is a similar topic, although not an Iranian this week. I know, it's a shocker. Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham has been an absolute voice of moral clarity and courage from day one when it comes to the issue of Iran, but in particular since the protests, since the uprising started in Iran, he has been very forward in calling for U.S. assistance. He has echoed the voices of the Iranian people. He has continued to pressure while also working with the Trump administration. He visited Israel just a few days ago to show solidarity with Israel as it potentially faces something with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I just have to say that voices like his, there's not enough of them. And to do so at a time like this, when I know that he's getting a lot of backlash from, the more extremist elements, both in the lobbying circles, but also on social media and in the media. And despite that, he's remained completely morally clear, has not wavered even for a second in what needs to happen when it comes to the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is a regime change, a complete deconstruction of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and ultimately rebuilding a free Iran. He also met with the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi this week, which was a tremendous sign of solidarity and support for the Iranian people, and a sign that gives people hope for the future, that this isn't Iraq. Iran isn't an Arab country. It doesn't have the same history. The future of a free Iran will be very, very different. And that's something that Lindsey Graham has done a great job advocating for. So Lindsey Graham, you are my hero of the week.
Yeah, he deserves it. He's always on the right side.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He really is a good guy. Great hero, Emily. Shoshana.
So you actually just reminded me of something. It's really, really hard to hear. Even though I don't understand a word of Persian, you don't need to understand a word of Persian, just like when you see that video, to understand and to hear in this 6.5-minute phone call. There's a woman, she describes herself as the daughter of a senior commander inside Iran. Yeah. And she calls the Persian Manato news program. Yeah. The emotion with which she describes what she herself has seen and endured, even as a daughter of a commander. She says that she would go out and protest, and she was arrested with her friends. Her friends are raped in the jail. She is not when she says her name. And the guilt that she feels for escaping the fate of her fellow countrymen and women, because she has protexia, as we say in this country, which is
Connections.
Connections, thank you. And she's then taken out of the danger, but her friends are raped or killed. And 6.5 minutes, this woman is, you could hear she's pouring out every inch of her soul into how she feels so bad. And she's about to say her name, and they're like, stop, don't say who you are, like, protect yourself. And she feels so guilty. And the bravery it needs, I feel like, we say this a lot, but I feel like it needs to be repeated and repeated and repeated. The Iranian people are incredible human beings and incredible, they nationally feel together as a people. They feel for their history. They have a connection with their land. They don't want to give it up. They're fighting for their nation. And I think that's maybe why Jews feel so connected with the Persians. Like, we get that. We get your connection with your history. You want to succeed. You want your children to have that love of nation and countryhood. And this phone call, I suggest you listen to it, because it is, like you said, you can listen to all these people foaming at the mouths, and you can listen to all these idiots who are being paid to be shills. Yeah. But you cannot deny that. That's not acting. That's not being paid. That is pain that is coming across so clearly that you really just cannot deny it.
I heard it and I cried. It was one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard. Up there with like phone calls in October 7th. Yeah. I wasn't understanding. She called a foreign Iranian radio, because it wasn't internally.
Manato is the leading opposition media, and they broadcast through satellite. So there are ways around.
Got it. So I don't understand how she managed to get through.
It's she has a white SIM card, presumably.
It was the most harrowing thing I've ever heard. And she, at this point, had just lost it. And she just couldn't anymore.
She said she tried to commit suicide twice.
Yes, she said she tried to commit, and she spoke about the fact that the IRGC raped their own daughters. She said that. These are really disgusting, barbaric people that need to go. This is the leaders. They don't care about their own people. They brutalize their own people, including their own daughters. Well, she's definitely a hero, and I'm glad they stopped her from saying her name, because she'd be dead if she had. Thank you, Shoshana. So I'm bringing another person speaking out for the Iranian people in a loud voice right now, and that's Mark Levine. And, you know, a couple of nights ago, he was on Sean Hannity, and he was so clear and, again, frustrated and angry and saying, listen, there are young people who are being killed on the streets of Tehran and every other city in Iran, and they're dying with their eyes open, and their families are looking for them, and they're there with their eyes open. Wake up, we have to do something. This is a moral obligation. He says there are certain things, he says, that we can't do anything about. You know, the Uyghurs in China, you're not going to get into a world war with China, but this is something that America, and this is something America should get involved in. And I just, you know, there have been very few voices speaking out for the Iranian people in the United States. You know, in terms of Hollywood, you've got Pink, who said something, you know, and she's been brave, and all the other Hollywood idiots. It took them a week and a half for Mark Ruffalo and Cynthia Nixon to have a joint letter condemning, but let's not condemn too much because the Jews may benefit from this, and put all that rubbish aside. But you've had Pink, who's actually come out from the beginning, but Mark Levine, to me in the last few days, has been the clearest voice in America speaking on behalf of the Iranian people. And how do I know this? Because I saw a tweet this morning from an Iranian guy saying, when we are liberated, we will not forget our friends. And Mark Levine, you're one of them. And so Mark Levine, who I've met a few times, he's a wonderful man. He's always on the right side of history. You are my hero this week. And again, wonderful audience, we pray, as we do every week, first of all, that Ran Gvili comes home to a dignified funeral, that his family can bury him. That was part of the deal. We shouldn't be going on to phase 2 until Ran Gvili comes home. We pray for the innocent people of Iran to be liberated quickly. We pray for the leaders to have moral clarity and do the right thing. And hopefully, all this happens by next week. So thank you for watching.